Hello and welcome back. My name is Lexi Jong and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. Today we're going to be discussing the new GOSS blush palettes, and there are 4 color combinations that you can choose from. I picked up 2 of the 4. I have Blush Peony, which is a medium pink, along with a more iridescent pink highlight. So this is called Sweeten. The highlight is shimmering pink or shimmer pink. I also picked up Vivid Azalea, and the matte blush here is Shocking, and there's a white gold highlight called Pearl. Let's go over the actual product. This product retails at Beautylish. Each duo costs $45 US. There's a total net weight of 19 grams or 0.67 ounces. And the palette, if you have the GOSS eye palette, it is the same packaging. So you have the same kind of like the gunmetal finish. As you can see, it is a fingerprint magnet. You have a full-size mirror inside, and it bends back just slightly past 180 degrees. And you have 2 very generous pan sizes in here. These blush and highlight duos are made in Canada, and they have an approximate shelf life of 9 months. Now, according to Beautylish and GOSS, it says, the Weightless Veil Blush Palette is GOSS's secret for a fresh, healthy flush. Choose from 2 complementary shades of matte blush and radiant highlight to customize your look, from a soft wash of just pinch color to a shimmering statement cheek. Formulated with the perfect balance of pigment for effortless blendability, the Weightless powder formula glides over skin without emphasizing pores, fine lines, or texture. Now, I have been testing these blush palettes pretty thoroughly. I have worn them on their own. I have worn them paired with each other. I've also taken components, either the blush or the highlight, and paired them with other products as well. And I have also tried similar techniques with other brands to see, how those things go. Now, if you had watched GOSS's original formula or one of the many reviews that are already out there on this product, one of the things GOSS has recommended is for a more illuminating blush look to put the highlight on your cheek first and then the matte blush on top of that, and you get a very different look. So I did test that out quite a bit, and I really like that application method. Today I have on the white gold highlight called Pearl from the Vivid Azalea palette. I have that as the base. And then I have the matte blush from the Peony palette, which is this one, the medium pink called Sweetened. Before we move on, let's go ahead and swatch these palettes. So here is Blush Peony, and this palette is described as a medium petal pink with a cool iridescent pink highlight that adds instant freshness and radiance to the skin. And here are the 2 shades. And I feel like this pink is a very nice, it is a medium pink, it can be bright, it can be more soft. So it's a great medium pink matte blush. The highlight though, I feel like you do not really see what it looks like with a finger swatch. You really need to see it on the cheek. So I do have clips showing you the application of both of these as well. Right now in the arm swatch, this highlight is looking more like a white highlight, but really it's this iridescent pink, and there's definitely a color shift in there. So you can kind of see the way it reflects the light, and when you wear it underneath the blush, it really gives the matte blush a more metallic look. One thing I forgot to mention is the palette itself is a snap closure, and so you kind of have to apply a little force to pull this open. So just if you're somebody with like long nails or something, be careful. Now, Vivid Azalea is described as a vibrant fuchsia and shimmering white gold, and they illuminate the skin and make your favorite features pop. So this here is your white gold highlight. And again, a finger swatch really doesn't give you the best look, but you can kind of see now that you've got the white gold and the pink one here, you can see a little bit more of the pink tone from the Blush Peony palette. You can see a little bit more of the gold tone here in the Vivid Azalea. And this bright pink fuchsia shade called Shocking, it's actually, it's one of those shades it looks a little scary, but you don't need to be scared of it. It's one of those ones that can really blend out to a beautiful pop of color on the cheeks without being too overly done. The key is to apply it the right way. I'm gonna go ahead and show you the clips now of me applying each of these palettes. And in each clip, I have applied the blush and highlight with two different methods. So one with the matte blush and then the highlight kind of, on top, which is the more traditional application method. And then the other side, I have the highlight as a base on the cheek, and then the matte blush goes on top. So you can kind of see the difference there. And I did build these colors up quite a bit, in my opinion, so that you can really see what they look like. I have tried to film this part 2 times already, so hopefully the 3rd time's the charm. But we are going in with Blush Peony. Right now I have the Clay de Peau foundation on, along with a very light dusting of the Sisley Phyto Poudre Compact Powder in Rosy. And on this side, we're gonna start off with just the blush, and then we will top it with the highlight. So I'm using the Surratt cheek brush. So the blush applies very easily, goes on smoothly. It's just a soft pink matte blush. So it's not a flat matte, but there's not, much of a sheen. So it's definitely a matte, not a satin matte in my opinion. And then I have the Surratt highlight brush here, and we're gonna go into this highlight shade. Just got some on the brush here. We're gonna dust it right here. And we're gonna leave it like that for now, but we'll come back and build this up in a minute. Now on this side of my face, we're gonna go in with the highlight first. And this highlight has some like holographic properties to it. So you can see it's got like sort of a duochrome because you've got some color shift, but the color shift, it's really just like a brighter pink. So, I guess there might be a little blue in there. That's what I've heard, but honestly, I see mostly pink with just like a touch of like a blue tone pink. So not actual blue. You can see the color shift just in the highlight there on my cheek. And I really didn't put on that much highlight. This is, slightly more than what I had on over here on this side, but barely. Now going in with the cheek brush with the matte blush on top of this, you can see as soon as that blush starts to hit it, you have this like bright pink radiance. It's like a metallic cheek color. Look at that. So I don't even have to use much blush. It just really pops up that color. All right, so here's the side with the blush as a base. Here's the side with the highlight as a base. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this holographic color. It's just a little bit too much for me. So what I like to do is tone it down a little bit. So I'm taking the Sonia G Smooth Buffer, and I'm just gonna kind of buff this in a little bit. And it just makes it a little bit more seamless and a little bit more diluted. So you have a little bit more of a glow versus like a strobe light. So you can see the difference here. Now, before we go on and blend out this side, I just want to show you what happens when you put the blush or the highlight on top of the blush. So even here, you get a little bit of that holographic vibe, but it's not going to be as intense as it is when you have the highlight underneath, which, that really kind of baffles me a little bit because you would think with the highlight on top, that's the part that'd be really blinding. But I think it's more about the layering. When you have the highlight underneath, you get more of that pink holographic tone. So let me buff this one in. So you can see even between these two sides, since I had the blush as the base here, it's still more diluted than it is here, even after kind of like buffing it away. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make these even now, but I wanted to show you the difference in application. So I'm gonna tone the blushes down a little bit, and I'm using the Chantecaille Eclat Dew Powder. I'm just gonna kind of buff this over my face. All right, so I think it looks a little bit more natural now, but again, you still have this holographic tint from the highlight, which is going to be a little bit more pronounced on the side with the highlight underneath. So even though I added highlight and then blush on top of this, because it's not the true base, I still feel like it looks a little bit different. And this side still looks a little heavier to me. All right, so this is the Wayne Goss blush in Blush Peony. All right, today we're going in with the Vivid Azalea blush, and we're gonna start off with the matte pink side, and this shade is called Shocking. And I mean, just one tap onto the blush and you get way too much pigment. So I'm gonna knock some of that off on my microfiber cloth so you can still see it on here. This is the Chikahodu KZ04. And I'm just going in very lightly. And I love this brush because it works really well to apply product, but it blends it out beautifully too. It has a little bit, it's dense enough that it will give you some light buffing. So while still being flexible enough that you can use it with a deep color pretty easily. So you can see how much pigment is there. It's definitely a highly pigmented blush. And then I'm going to use the KZ05 with the highlight here. And just gonna put a little bit right here. So you can see that the highlight has a gold hint to it. I'll put some right here for you as well. All right, now on the other side, we're gonna go ahead with the highlight first. So I'm putting this more all over the cheek. You can see that gold glint there, but it's not super jarring. It's definitely there. You could build this up and make it super blingy, but yet it is still subtle enough that you could go in softly with it and just have a light highlight. Now onto the pink, knock some of that off again. And here we go. And you can see when you put this matte blush on top, you've got this more magical transformation. So the highlighter shines through, and the way the gold and the pink play together is really interesting. So it looks, you know, a little bit more metallic. So this is the side with the highlight underneath. This is the side with it out. Obviously, I would not wear it this dark in real life. I'm taking the Sonia G Smooth Buffer, and I am going to buff these sides here. And I think with this particular shade being so pigmented, this brush is really key. Any sort of buffing brush, but this one in particular is the one that I've been reaching for. And there, you can really just kind of soften that out. And you can see, even though we've got the matte blush and the highlight separate, even though I buffed them together, you can still see that separation of the two products there. So some of the highlight definitely shifted down here with the buffing motion, but I still have the majority of it concentrated where I placed it. Same goes with the blush. Now let's buff this side. Okay, I'm just cleaning off my brush on my microfiber cloth just to make sure I'm not tracking too much pigment around. Just a little bit more wiping. So I definitely went in a little bit too heavy on this side today, but I wanted you to really see the color, and you can see how much, you know, how different this looks with the highlight underneath versus the highlight on top. Even when you buff them together and the products kind of mix a little bit, you still have a much more metallic appearance here. So highlight underneath, highlight on top, buff together. I hope that was helpful, and I feel like now is a good time to discuss my thoughts on these palettes. And I have to say, when I first picked up these palettes, I just kind of thought they were just like an ordinary blush highlight duo. And in some ways they are, and in other ways there's something special about these. So first, let me go over the blushes. The blushes themselves, they have a very nice matte formula. They blend out nicely. They have quite a bit of pigment, so if you want a lighter look, go in with less pigment, blend it out, but they do buff out nicely, blend out nicely. To me, however, the actual formula of it, although it's nice, there isn't anything that stands out and sets it above other matte blush powders. I think they work very well on the cheeks. I didn't have any issues with emphasizing any texture or fine lines. I don't have tons of fine lines on this particular area of my face right now, so you know, maybe I'm not the best judge of that. However, I did have some textural issues going on, and I did not see any emphasis from the blushes with that. So they're a very nice matte formula, but I do think that there are other formulas out there that, you know, also give a similar effect. The highlight powders on their own, they're a very nice formula as well. And when you swatch both of these with your finger, you can tell that there is definitely a more metallic feeling to the highlight formulation than the matte powder. Both of them blend out smoothly, they go on nicely, brushes pick them up easily, no issues whatsoever. When you're looking at the highlight on its own on the skin, you know, they seem like a normal highlight. At least this one here does, from the Vivid Azalea. The one in the Blush Peony, which is the iridescent pink, you really do see quite a bit of that iridescence, which was a little bit surprising. I didn't realize how much of that I would see. But when you're using these highlights just like as a little accent, they work very nicely as a traditional highlight. Now, what is special about these blushes is the way they work when you wear the highlight as a base and the blush on top. And I have to say, I have tried several different combinations with products that I already own, such as the Suku Cheek Palette, the Hourglass Strobe Highlights. I've used different blushes like the Chantecaille blush and highlight duos and so forth. So I've tried several different combinations, and none of them come close to the same effect that you get with these Wayne Goss blushes and pairing them with the highlight as the base. Now, when you wear the highlight as a base and you put a matte blush on top, you are going to turn it into a more luminous look in general. So that definitely is true regardless of the brand. However, it's much more subtle with the other brands than it is with the Wayne Goss. The Wayne Goss, the way he has this formula and the way that they layer with each other, you're actually getting more luminous that comes across there. And whatever kind of iridescent particles and stuff that he has used in both of the highlights, they are really helping to kind of transform the color into a more unique shade. So instead of just taking your matte blush and turning it into a more luminous version of that matte blush, you're adding some additional kind of iridescent shades in there that kind of give it, you know, a little bit more light reflection and a little bit more hint of something else as the light hits it. So with this pink highlight, you're definitely going to have a very bright metallic look, and it can be really fun if you're into that look. The shimmery white gold one, personally, I prefer this highlight. I think it gives a really nice luminous look, but I mean, you look at it on my face right now. I have the white gold highlight on with the Blush Peony, and you can see it's not just a luminous blush, but you have a little bit of that gold shift and everything in there. It has transformed it from the normal shade of pink that you get with the matte blush to a slightly softer pink with a little bit of a gold tint, yet it also has the light reflecting properties of the highlight. And that's where it's just a little bit different from the other products worn in the same way. Other products worn in the same way, you know, it's going to give you a luminous effect that is much more subtle, whereas these can be built up a lot more and you have a few more options. So I think that's what's special about these blushes. But if you're not going to wear them with that particular method, in my opinion, they're very nice blushes, but there isn't something extraordinary that sets them apart from something you might already have in your collection. Now, as for the actual shades, I really like this pink here. Actually, I like both of the blush shades a lot, and I really like the highlight in the Vivid Azalea palette. I'm not a fan of the highlight in the Blush Peony palette. I've worn it several times. I've paired it different ways. I've gone light, I've gone heavy, and I'm just not really a big fan of the iridescence for me. However, some people might be looking for that particular type of look, and I think it's really fun, and it would actually be really fun to wear during the summer, you know, with some more summer vibrant makeup and so forth. But now that we're heading into fall, it's just not something I'll wear that often. However, this highlight here in the Vivid Azalea, I find to be fantastic. This Vivid Azalea duo is actually my favorite of these two because not only is the highlight still a little bit more on the subtle side, but works really well paired underneath these blushes, but the actual blush color is just very versatile. So you can get a much lighter look or a more vibrant look, but I just think that bright pop of pink, it just has something to it that really gives you this fresh-faced look. And I love the undertones. It is a cool pink, so if you have super warm skin, maybe you wouldn't like it as much, but I do think it looks really nice. And you can use this to get kind of that in from the cold type of look, or, you know, something a little bit more vibrant. It's just a really nice combination. So in my opinion, out of these two, that's the one that I would pick up again with no hesitation. We're gonna do a few swatch comparisons. So here is the Rose Duo from Chantecaille. And this here, we'll put this right here, but you can see that this pink is gonna be a bit warmer than the pink shade from Blush Peony. Blush Peony is more neutral. This is going to be slightly warmer. It's still really close to neutral though. You can see that the highlight is very different. This highlight worn underneath this blush in the duo, you know, it's really a much more subtle effect. Another blush that I wanted to compare is She's That Girl from Patrick Ta. So again, it's going to be a warmer pink. You can actually see that the rose from Chantecaille is a little bit more similar than She's That Girl. Chantecaille is still a little cooler than She's That Girl. So you can see that there's kind of a warmth gradient there. And then this is the Viseart Rose Coral Blush Palette. And we're going to swatch all three of these pinks. And I think the matte formula of these blushes is very nice. So if you're looking for another alternative, these are, you know, formula wise, the matte finish, they are pretty similar. You can see that the Shocking shade in Wayne Goss is going to be a little different. It's a little bit more vibrant actually than the one from Viseart. This one's going to be a little bit more of a rose pink as the base compared to this more fuchsia shade. And you can see that the Blush Peony shade is going to be warmer in tone than the other two in the Viseart palette. This is the Chanel Duo de Camellias, and mixing both the white and the gold, or the silver and the gold together, you can see even there we get a much more silver look. Just the silver on it, or just the gold on its own, is still more gold toned than the white gold in the Vivid Azalea. In the Burberry Fair to Light palette, this is the white highlight. And you can see that's gonna be a stark white. You don't really have any of that gold or pink in there. And then the Guerlain Meteorites Pearl Dust palette. This is the pearly gold shade, and I'm gonna put this one here. This one, in my opinion, is the closest match to it, but the formulas are different. So layering a matte blush on top of this isn't giving the same effect as it is as the Wayne Goss. Something about the iridescent properties in these highlights is making them come through the blush a little bit stronger than it does with any of the other highlights. But color-wise, this is the closest match I have. I don't have anything that is a close match to the iridescent pink highlight because it does have that color shift. So overall, I hope this review has been helpful. And me personally, I am very happy with this Vivid Azalea palette. If I were to purchase any of these duos again, I definitely think they are good quality, good formulas. And if you have space for them in your collection, they are definitely something nice to add to it. If you were to pick up one of any of the four, honestly, the one I think is the most special is the Vivid Azalea, and that's the one that I would go for. And honestly, I like the blush in the Blush Peony, but I'm not a fan of the highlight. So for me, I would pass on this one again, but I would definitely get the Vivid Azalea. I just think that one's a pretty special duo. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please make sure you do that and hit the notification bell so you know when my next video will pop up. And thanks so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great day.